This is Bedtime Stories, Grownup Edition, Short Stories, Tru Joi, Part 5. When we left off, Miss Charlotte found out who the woman in her son Lil Drow's life was, and Q's Uncle Samuel put it all on the line. He told Miss Charlotte exactly what her son was into. He also gave Woody and Selima an ultimatum, and they both declined. What neither Woody or Miss Charlotte knew was the reason why he was making this offer. We also found out that Miss Charlotte wasn't just some raggedy mother who had her son in the game and was living off him. She was a product of her environment, a victim of circumstances, and for the most part, in the dark. Now that the light had been shed on her son's life, she was doing everything she could to get him out of it. When Woody got back to his room at the estate where the wedding had been held, Selima was waiting for him in his room, and she'd made a grand announcement. When Woody asked if she'd contracted or gotten something, she told him that she did. An embryo. Woody just stared. Then he asked, "Are you sure?" Selima cut him off and said, "I'm going to assume that you were going to ask me if I'm sure that I'm pregnant, because you could not have been asking me if I'm sure that it's yours. For the record, I don't double dip. I need at least a full menstrual cycle between partners. So that way there's never any question about who the pappy is if I ever find myself in this situation." Woody nodded and said, "And that's why your pops." Selena said, "I didn't tell him. He's the one who called it. I denied it, of course, but I verified it right before you walked in. Now, while I don't appreciate his attempts to arrange a marriage, I don't see myself having the title of mother without having the title of wife. And ain't no pressure, though, because I'd prefer not to have a baby." When Woody said, "So what you trying to do?" "I'd prefer not to have this baby. But either way it goes, whether we get married and have a baby or not, my intention is to get back to business. I am my father's only child, and I plan to succeed him in the organization." Wood said, "So my wife and the mother of my child would be the queen pin." When Selima said yes, Woody said, "Yeah, nah." Selima looked at Woody and said, "Then that settles it. The only way that my father would allow me to be the head of this organization is if his grandchild had two parents, married, and if his son-in-law was on board." Woody said, "I'll take the promotion and let you sit down," but Selima said, "I ain't never sitting down." Woody looked at her and said, "So the real reason why Tasha and I are over forever is because she decided that having my baby wasn't an option." Selima said, "So does that mean that this is the end of our friendship?" Woody said, "Nah, because you at least had the decency to discuss the options with me before you decided. But if you go through with this is the end of our little extracurricular activities." Selima said, "Cool. Can we get one more for the road, though?" And Woody obliged. Big Woody turned Selima every which way but loose. He held nothing back. He bent Selima up like a pretzel, gave her multiple orgasms, made her say his name, tell him that it was his, used every inch of the room and every item in it as a prop, gave her the business in every position and from every direction, beat it up mercilessly, and made sure he touched bottom. Then he carried her to her own room, put her in the shower, gave her the full service treatment, took her to the edge again, and right before she could climax, he dropped his kids off inside her since a condom wasn't necessary, pulled out, left her stretched out without getting herbs, and went back to his room. Big Wood had two goals: to make sure he was absolutely unforgettable and to make Selima question her decision. The next morning, when everyone rose to prepare for the day's excursions, Selima had packed up and gone back to New York. She left a note in her room for Wood that said, "It was nice while it lasted. Take care of yourself." Over the next few years, Woody continued putting in work, stacking his money, and playing in exotic playgrounds. He also hosted several more family vacations. His mother did not try to bring Tasha, but she absolutely tried to hook him up with women in the vicinity of the vacation. And when he and Selima crossed paths, they were still cool, there were no hard feelings, but that ship had sailed. And Q and LJ's families were under attack in Dallas by the Newport family. Woody took a hiatus from the business. He was one way about his brother Q. So Q and his family's safety became Big Wood's #1 priority. If you watch Queenpin, then you know that Woody was an intricate part of the rescue of Regina, and he was instrumental in taking down and taking out the Newport family. He also did all he could to interrupt Rennie's inappropriate obsession with Q. He was used to using his good looks, his charm, and his sexual prowess to divert the attention of women who had nefarious intentions. A good bit of the work that he did as a finisher included seducing women who were involved in issues that the Notorious Five families were trying to resolve. But Rennie had all of her time, talents, and attention focused on getting Q. So when the family did the intervention, in walked Tru. There was so much going on, and Tru was so low-key that Woody really didn't notice her. But in his line of business, he sees everything and everybody. So some months later, when this fine, fly, itty-bitty thing walked into the hotel bar, pulled up a seat, and ordered a lemon drop, he had to see what was to her. He sent her a drink, and when they made eye contact, he saw that she was interested too. He took his drink over to her side of the bar. He saddled up next to her, pulled up a seat, ordered himself another double shot of 1738, and said, "How you doing, little mama? My name is Big Wood." Tru said, "I'm sure that's not what your mother wrote on your birth certificate. What's your name, sir?" Big Wood said, "Benjamin." And Tru said, "It's nice to meet you, Benjamin. My name is Tru." Big Wood said, "Now who's using fake names?" Tru said, "Nah, that's my name." When Woody asked to see some ID, Tru pulled out hers, and on it read, Tru, Tru, Joy, Joi, Bertin, Bertin. Seeing her last name, Woody asked, "Where you from, little mama?" She was holding a North Carolina ID card, but that last name sound French. Tru said, "I was born and raised in North Carolina, but my family is from Nolens." After spending more than 30 years with the Baptiste and St. James families, Woody was fluent in French, Creole, Patois, and all three sound sexy as hell rolling off his lips. So when he continued the conversation in Creole, Tru was intrigued. The two sipped, talked, got to know each other, and while they didn't share many personal details, it was clear that the plan was to end their night together. After all their conversation, Woody could never place where he knew Tru from. She looked so familiar. And when he told her so, she said, "You don't look familiar to me, I'm sorry." If that's a pickup line, don't waste your time, sir. It's me and you tonight. When the bartender called for last call, Woody pulled out a bankroll, paid the tab, and said, "Your room or mine, little mama." When the couple got back to Tru's room, Woody didn't even notice that the room didn't look like anybody'd been in it yet. Tru was barely 5'2", so Woody was already prepared for the difficulties that he'd been experiencing all his life when taking a new woman to bed. His girth and his length was just too much for one woman. The only exception he'd ever found was Selima. So being an experienced lover, he knew what it took to get a woman hot and ready, or as ready as she was going to get for all that he was packing. He put her in her shower, got her so fresh and so clean, used his lips and his fingers to do what he did best. And before he could complete the mission, he found out that that wasn't what she was there for. Tru said, "Let's go to the bed." In the bedroom, Tru went in the nightstand, pulled out a condom, and went to hand it to Woody. And Big Wood said, "Little mama, I can't do nothing with that." Tru said, "No glove, no love." Big Wood said, "Absolutely, I got you." And then he pulled out the biggest condom pack Tru had ever seen. Wood was a pro at hiding all he was packing by keeping a woman turned around in the shower, drying her off and toweling himself off with his back turned, wrapping himself in a towel. And most women never paid any attention because their head was swimming from his head game in the shower. By the time he laid them down and they were 2 or 3 orgasms in, they weren't trying to see the tractor trailer he was about to park in their garage. Now, most women know that men who don't have much are skilled at preventing women from finding out until it's too late. But apparently, men who are well endowed have learned that it's advantageous for them to do the same. Tru, however, wasn't going. She snatched the towel from around Wood's waist, swept his legs out from under him, and when he landed on his back on the bed, she had a full and complete view of the package. When Wood made eye contact with Tru, he was shocked to see that nothing in her facial expression said that anything about what she saw was a challenge. Where he was used to doing the devouring, he was quickly devoured. He never in all his days had his man swallowed up. But Mighty Mouse, Tru, was the 8th wonder of the world. She ate up all that Woody was serving for dinner and only came up for air when it was clear that he was about to explode. Woody's whole and entire mind was blown. He'd had women all around the world, and he'd been laying girls down since he was 14 years old. His first experience was an inappropriate one with a full-grown woman, and even she couldn't handle all he was packing. So for the 5'2", barely 115 pound, all booty and breast, Tru Joi Bedtime to be handling Big Wood had his mind blown. She took the condom out of his hand, opened the wrapper, and used her mouth to put it on. And when he had finally found his breath and was somewhat recovered, she got on top and hit the reverse cowgirl on him. The last thing that Woody remembered was his own toes curling, his body shuddering, the release right before he had the best sleep of his life. When he woke up, the sun was up and housekeeping was knocking on the door. When he looked at the clock, it was 11 a.m. and Tru Joi was nowhere to be found. Panicked, Woody checked for his wallet, his phone, his keys, because he figured that this had to be some kind of setup. He had to have been caught up in a trap like the ones that he'd set. There was no sign of this woman. None of her belongings were in the room. And when he searched his stuff, everything was still there. And it was clear that it had never been touched. When he dressed and came out, he asked the housekeeper if the woman who booked the room had checked out. And she said, no. Big Wood did the walk of shame back to his own room and just scratched his head. Last night, he picked up a woman at the bar, went back to her room, and she put it on him. And when he woke up, she was gone. What the hell? Big Wood was on a mission. He had to find that damn woman. And he had to redeem himself. He also needed to hit that sober. Because he wasn't 100% sure that what happened last night wasn't a result of him having had too much alcohol. Them double shots of 1738 had to have done him dirty if a woman who barely reached his chest had turned him out like that. That night and the next, he returned to the hotel bar and sat there almost all night looking for Tru Joi, and she was nowhere to be found. When he attended Q and Angela's karaoke night at their estate, he was flabbergasted to see Tru and Stephanie chopping it up on the other side of the room. And when Q made the introductions and he realized that Tru did not recognize him, he was pissed. What he didn't know was the room that Tru took him back to was a spare. Every city that she visited, she got a hotel room, whether she was staying at a hotel or not, just in case she found somebody that she wanted to entertain. That way, when she was done with them, they couldn't find her. She never intended to see Woody again. She'd had a good time, and it had been a very long time since she had someone who was working with all that Woody was working with. She was a small package, but as they say, still waters run deep. In all Tru's life, she'd been an anomaly. She'd only ever had one other lover who had the length necessary to fill her cup. But that didn't mean that she needed to connect herself with whoever old boy was. She couldn't even remember his name. She'd had way too many lemon drops. And while she wasn't blackout drunk, She couldn't recall very much after the shower. She knew that she took him back to her room of her own volition. She knew with certainty that they'd used a condom because she had a histamine reaction to latex and she needed her allergy medicine. She knew he was packing because she could feel the residuals. And she knew she enjoyed herself because she felt satiated. But the details were unretrievable. It wasn't until she attended Q and Angela's karaoke night, and Q walked up with his friend Woody, that she had a flash of the moment in the shower when he put her right leg up on the seat, his arms underneath her, lifted her up on his shoulders, and almost gave her a stroke when he used his mouth like a vacuum, his tongue like a vibrator, while cupping her breasts and stimulating her nipples. She had never in her whole life had that experience, and she was scared that she was going to have an orgasm, go into convulsions, and hit her head on the shower and die. She recalled saying, "Let's go to the bedroom," right before she climaxed. Oh, she was going to get hers, but not like that.
How long you trying to postpone this is crazy.